Philanthropy for me isn't about the money. It's not about the check. We believe that you show up in really meaningful and deep ways to fill the cracks and crevices that exist in society, in a community, in an organization. We all have them. And philanthropy is this really interesting dance, this partnership of mutual support and admiration and love. How can we show up in a way that it's not transactional, that is making more of an impact for an organization or a project or a person rather than just like a one-time, one-off opportunity? Listening is a big part of the job. And by the job, I mean being human, being connected to people. I learn more in the quiet and the listening. You have your integrity, you have your trust, and the role that I am in for the bank, for my family, for my community, I feel a lot of responsibility to do that connecting for people because so many of us aren't allowed to be free and externally facing. And so I feel a lot of privilege in the fact that I can stop and sit with a question, with a need, with an ask, and really think about, okay, who do I know? How can I get you what you need and how can I help?
Welcome, friends. It's your host, Donnabelle Casis. I'm so thankful you're tuning into another episode of To Hum is Human, the podcast where we explore the transformative power of tuning into our intuition to express our passionate purpose. Today's episode is called The Currency of Connection, Philanthropy, Local Business, and Meaningful Impact. And it's for anyone curious about what it means to create real value in a community, the kind of value that goes beyond the bottom line, rooted in relationships, generosity, and care. I think you're going to love my next guest because she's someone who truly embodies this ethos. Tara Brewster is Vice President of Business Development and the Director of Philanthropy at Greenfield Savings Bank. Tara is a longtime advocate for small businesses, a powerhouse fundraiser, and a community connector whose impact can be felt across Western Massachusetts. From her years as a small business owner to her current role championing local philanthropy, Tara's work is all about aligning heart and strategy, helping people and places thrive together. She's also the voice behind the Western Mass Business Show on WHMP, where she uplifts stories of entrepreneurship and local leadership every week. Welcome, Tara.
Thank you so much, Donnabelle. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
It was a no-brainer for me to have you on the show. Now, Tara, you've woven together a rich tapestry of roles from being an entrepreneur, a banker, a fundraiser, a radio host, and community builder. When you think of the currency of connection, what does that phrase stir in you?
So much. It's really interesting to be so multifaceted and so woven into the community in a place, especially a place like Western Massachusetts. And, we live in a capitalist society that the currency is money, right? Everything kind of revolves around the almighty dollar and how we interact with people, money, when we go out to eat, money, when we have conversations, money. And so leading with that, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, thinking about, okay, how can I own this conversation? How can I control it in a way where it doesn't seem so wild and loose and it's a free for all? I often have lots of conversations with people around money, whether it's needing loans, needing money, like my banking hat on, whether it's being asked for money through the director of philanthropy role for nonprofits and people in the community wanting to do capital things, whether it's in my personal realm, asking people for donations for peer-to-peer fundraising for nonprofits. And I think that the money conversation is hard for a lot of people because you grow up with this history of money. You either have it or you don't have it. You either talk about it or you don't talk about it. But I've really tried to hold up the financial money conversations to the light because it really is important to encourage others to do with the resources they have and to give abundantly, despite the fact that you may or may not have abundance of actual physical monetary wealth. People have abundance of other types of wealth, energy, wisdom, connections. And so it's a really deep conversation for me. And I love that we're embarking on this together.
Well, a lot of it is also about perspective, about what is currency. And you've brought that to light with some of your examples there. Now, you ran your own small business for years. Can you take us back to when you were an entrepreneur and tell us what pulled you to take the leap and start a business?
I I started working at 15 in a men's clothing store in downtown Northampton in Thorns Marketplace, called Taylor Men. And I ended up working full time at the end of my senior year at Northampton High, and then full time through Smith College. And so I really got an idea of how small businesses worked. I had a lot of autonomy there. I was very successful. We had a men's clothing store, women's clothing store, a shoe store, and then regionally we were opening other shoe stores in the Northeast. So it was great to see the ability of the owners to grow and manifest their own destiny, for better or for worse. And I ultimately graduated from Smith and moved to New York City. When I was in New York, I was working for wholesale men's apparel companies. So I started off with New York Metro and then did Maine to New York Metro, and then eventually had Maine to Florida as my territory. And so while I was in New York, while I was doing all this, the men's clothing store closed. And so I realized that there was this market gap in men's apparel. And I realized that I could do that. You know, I had worked in men's apparel in that exact spot. I knew the market, I knew the customers. You know, we did roughly $1 million every year. So between the past experience that I had and the current experience that I had with the wholesalers and the men's retailers all over the country, I had a pretty good network of men's apparel businesses and potential wholesalers that I could call on and things. And so I decided to leave the city and move back home, and open up my own men's clothing store. And I called up my old teammate from Taylor Men, Candace Connors. She decided that we should partner together. I walked in and I met Mark Ramoli, the current head of the commercial lending department at Greenfield Savings Bank. Convinced him to give me $100,000. Convinced Rich Matowitz, who owns Thorns Marketplace, to lease to us. And on the Ides of March in 2008, we decided to open.
Wow.
You know, it's incredible. I think for so many people, Donnabelle, entrepreneurship is a way to create your own wealth, create your own life, use your talent and your treasure in a way that you really want to do. Going back to capitalism, again, going back to the money and the dollar, and how sometimes that's not the end all be all for people. It's tough to be in a 9 to 5 punching a clock in a finite role where you're pigeonholed and feeling like not seen, not heard, not believed, not uplifted. And so for a lot of people, I really think that entrepreneurship is a way to kind of like recreate your whole paradigm, right? And really shift not only your mindset and your life in a different path, but convincing or realigning people around you to get them to really think about you in a different and more dynamic way.
Well, it's very empowering when you make the schedule, you make the decisions, you make the calls. And there's something to that that really drive people. Like they really enjoy being in that position, but also being able to help others in a particular way. And I'm curious about why you chose men's apparel specifically, or even just retail specifically. Was that just something that you were curious about, or it just felt easy?
It really was meant to be. I was suffering a huge loss my senior year in high school. My mom was diagnosed with stage 4 ovarian cancer when I was 15. And she subsequently passed away on June 10th of 97 when I was a senior in high school. And my friend Amy Mathers had taken me to get a massage at Thorns at the Backstop, which is owned by Michael Grasso. And so while we were both getting massages, I looked over and there was this small help wanted sign in the corner of Taylor Men. And I looked at this beautiful men's clothing store with really expensive clothes. And I said, this is a nice store. I could probably work here. And I walked in while my friend was getting her massage, and I got the application to apply. And I ended up applying, and they ended up hiring me right away and wanting me to work full time. And, sales was really easy for me. I think sales is connecting, right?
Mhm.
Connecting with people, having a conversation, being able to really meet someone where they're at and see people for who they are. And so I feel like I've been in sales my whole life. And it just totally, just like my mom's death set me off on a course of unexpectedness. Working at Taylor Men also did that.
Well, speaking about alignment and serendipity, I think also too, when you think about what sales is, it's really about believing in something and presenting it in a way that shows that belief and that courage and that love for whatever it is you're bringing forth. And now in your current role, you've helped shape strategy and lending at Greenfield Savings Bank. And again, you've also stood quote unquote behind the counter as a small business owner. How have these two perspectives informed each other?
So I will forever lovingly refer to myself as a recovering entrepreneur. I believe that once you're an entrepreneur, you are always an entrepreneur. I think that for all the HR professionals out there, there should be a special category when people are applying for positions. Have you ever owned your own business? Check this box, because I think when you're an entrepreneur, you just understand the hustle. You understand that there is no safety net. You understand that we are all interconnected. We are all this multifaceted jeweled web that are codependent on each other for survival. And it just is such a different frame for being an employee with benefits and days off and healthcare and being part of a team. You're not out there alone, like doing the hustle all by yourself. It's like, I remember when I started at the bank and I had been rogue for about a decade,
Rogue.
making my own way. Sometimes we took a paycheck, sometimes we didn't. It was really rough. And I remember going up to my coworker and saying, Tina, we get paid the same amount every 2 weeks. And she was like, oh my God, this is only 10 years ago. She was like, what the heck is wrong with you? Like, where have you been?
What a concept.
Oh my God, it just had been so long since I had, had all these luxuries and benefits. So I still feel like I still carry that with me every day. I still feel so fortunate and blessed to work at a place that pays me regularly, where I don't have to worry about my paycheck. I get days off. We have a pension, we have healthcare, all this stuff, like abundance, right? Gratitude, a lot of gratitude. And I think that shows up. It shows up when I first started 9 years ago at the bank. And I think being a recovering entrepreneur and doing the role that I have done for the bank really gave me a lot of legitimacy and opportunity, because people saw me and knew me and understood what I stood for already before I was reintroducing myself as a member of the GSB team.
Now, especially with working with banks and gaining trust, trust is such a fragile and vital thing, especially in the world of finance. What does it take to earn the trust of a small business owner today?
Patience. I like to say that there's no beginning and end to a relationship, really. When you enter a relationship, it's about patience, kindness, integrity, truthfulness. Trust and integrity are probably two really big pillars of, what I try to bring to a relationship. For me, it's always been about focusing on other instead of self, and then what the self needs, what I need in order to be successful in my role at the bank, what the bank needs in order to keep me on as an employee will come karmically, energetically, residually from releasing the goodness, the positive energy, the karmic vibrations. If you focus on other success, then what you need to have happen will happen for you. And I've just been a believer of that this entire time. And it's proven itself to be successful over and over again, because people want to be around the energy that is attractive to them. And I think people really feel nurtured by people who are not self-serving, who are not toxic, who are not negative. And so I try to focus on all of those things.
Well, what's one misconception people often have about local banks or small businesses that you wish you could clear up?
We live in an area that is very rich with local mutual banks and local credit unions. And there are so many choices to be in partnership with them that I am always shocked and saddened at how many people do not bank with local mutual financial institutions or credit unions. We're having an influx of Chase opening now around us, and Bank of America has the most deposits out of any of us in this region, and they're behemoths. I mean, they're multinational organizations that are stock banks that are beholden to shareholders and don't give back very much at all to the local community and don't care about sitting on boards of directors, aren't really integrated into the fabric of this place in a deep and meaningful way. So I feel like as mutuals, we don't do a good job of really telling our why, or maybe telling our why not and giving like a either or comparison. I've always wanted all of the mutuals to come together and do a full page ad in the papers every year and say their combined stats of 1,000 years in existence and 5,000 employees and 5 billion in contributions to local nonprofits. And you know what I mean? Like just really talking about how we add to the backbone, or how we are one of the backbones of this region. I think people don't really think about community banks in the way that they are integrated deeply into the fabric of so many people's lives, whether it's a regular checking and savings account, whether it's your mortgages, your commercial lending for small businesses, your trust and investment services. I mean, the tendrils of roots that come down from each tree that is an institution, it's incredible. Like when you think about it and who's connected to who and how we're all interwoven together. I think we do a bad job of really talking about our role and stepping into our role and our power, not just as all of the things that I just mentioned of the things that we do, but how we are, how we show up, how we live our values.
So it sounds like most people may underestimate the power of the small bank. They think probably bigger is better. But what we've been talking about this whole time is connection as currency. And it sounds like local banks really, you get to know them as people. You get to know your clients as people and their roles in the community that perhaps big banks may never get a chance to really discover at the rate that they work. And I imagine the beast, right, of being
Yeah.
more of a conglomerate behemoth bank versus a small bank. Now, I love that you are now the director of philanthropy at Greenfield Savings Bank. That's a big title. You know, if you think about philanthropy, what does philanthropy mean to you? Like, how is it different from charity or simply cutting a check?
It is a big role. It's supposed to be a rotating role at our bank. And as we grow in size, it becomes more and more of a larger job, right? It in the past three iterations of directors of philanthropy before me, it has sat on top of their roles, their primary roles, or next to. But we are now over $1 billion bank. We've doubled in size in the past 7 years. And so our philanthropy has also doubled in size. We now give away $1 million every year to over 300 nonprofits. And that keeps growing. That number keeps increasing. The number of relationships, right? We're talking about relationships that you have to hold and manage and know, that historical knowledge of who we've given to, what the situation is, what events we like to support, who is the point person, all of those things. It just like ripples out and manifests into this larger entity, larger role. So I'm lobbying to keep it. I don't know if I will or not, but yeah, it's a real blessing. I mean, philanthropy for me isn't about the money. It's not about the check. We don't do check presentations. We shy away from that stuff online. That's not who we are as an organization. We believe that you show up in really meaningful and deep ways to fill the cracks and crevices that exist in society, in a community, in an organization. We all have them. And, it's an interesting relationship, like the ask and the giving, and it changes. Greenfield Savings Bank is not always the giver, and the person asking is not always the asker. And philanthropy is this really interesting dance, this partnership of mutual support and admiration and love. How can we show up in a way that it's not transactional, that is making more of an impact for an organization or a project or a person rather than just like a one-time, one-off opportunity?
Well, can you share a moment when a decision to give or to advocate for giving hit you on a human level? Like a time when the impact really felt personal to you?
Every day.
Every day. Well, even just like a personal cause that has affected you personally, you know?
I say that I'm blessed busy because I'm so fortunate to have so much to do and so many people to be in a relationship with. It's always about like most recent opportunities. And one of the more recent opportunities that have come to us through the bank was It Takes a Village in Huntington. It's a really beautiful nonprofit that helps families, expectant moms with services and supplies and showing up and meeting people where they're at, delivering groceries, having a community closet in an old church in Huntington. And so they recently have grown to the point where they were able to buy the space that they're in Huntington. So doing a capital campaign. And, for Huntington and the hill towns, it's so remote and removed that thinking about not having an organization like It Takes a Village to go out to these individual homes and be the respite and the provider and the hands to hold the baby so the mom can shower, or the chef to be able to make the food for the person that is hungry coming home from school. Just thinking about the opportunity that we get to be able to be a part of the work that these nonprofits are doing. We don't have to do that, right? Like we're not doing that. Like we're doing the easy part of the giving of the money. So each of these, and there's probably 30 a month that we give to, they're just beautiful in their own special, unique, and different ways. And that fills me up so incredibly to think about the fact that our donation is helping It Takes a Village to like take care of their village, the Hilltown village, and these moms and these kids and these families that need resources. It's like, thank you. I think that's why I focused on nonprofits so long ago with the hot chocolate run. When I think back, because I didn't grow up with philanthropy in my family, we didn't give, it wasn't institutional for us. Like that wasn't a part of how I grew up. I really think it was the store that sort of level set my like rootedness in dependence on other, and the fact that we all survive together or we all don't together. But really the hot chocolate run in 2009, I can remember that was my first time peer-to-peer fundraising, and I was hooked. To think about the fact that I didn't have $500 to donate, but that I could ask my network and raise $500 because you believe in me, or you trust me, I have integrity, we have a relationship that we've built. And to leverage, it's almost like matching. We all like look for the match in the campaign so that we feel like if I give $50, then someone will match it, and then it'll be like $100. And so it's sort of that scalable, buildable, partnerable way to think about philanthropy and giving back.
And Safe Passage, which if listeners are tuning in and wondering what Safe Passage is, it's like, how can you not get behind an organization that helps victims of domestic violence? Being a figure that's quite visible and connected helps bring others up. And so when it takes someone like you, who has been such an advocate and has been such a community person advocating for a particular cause, it just brings awareness, number one, to people about what that cause is. But then you going behind this cause, they think about, wait a minute, well, if Tara's doing this, maybe I should be doing this too. And it sort of creates this ripple of awareness, ripple of connecting, and connection and care are just synonymous to me. When you build a connection with something, then you also attach a certain care and respect for that particular thing. Now, I imagine you get asked a lot to help with raising funds for an organization. And because this podcast is about tapping into your instincts and inner wisdom, what internal compass guides you when choosing where and how to invest in your community?
So when I first started at GSB in 2016, I said yes to a lot more things because it felt like I had to prove myself. I had to establish sort of where my focus should be, who was who I aligned with. And then in one way, I've sort of become a little bit more choosy about where I go and who I spend my time with and who I say yes to. And in another way, I've just gotten a little bit more refined in my yes. So I don't know that I actually say no at all, but I maybe deflect and re-ask the question so that it changes the narrative a little bit. Because one thing that I've learned is that we live in a really rich place of nonprofits. And I believe that we are special in Western Mass, and we are not special in the fact that nonprofits are really the backbone of humanity, providing this structure and stability to so many of us that would otherwise completely fall through the cracks of life if it were not for organizations that provided food, shelter, safety, protection, healthcare, all of these things, right? So I consider myself a nonprofit super fan in the fact that I am aware of their covering of humanity, blanketing humanity, and really protecting us all. So I know that I inherently have a hard time saying no to them because I know that if they're asking, they need it, right? So I've been trying to do more one-offs or event specific, or tell me what you need, tell me how I can help you, and I'll try to do like the A to B thing rather than sitting on a board of directors for a 3-year term, or showing up every month for a 2-hour meeting to whatever. I'd rather be like okay, what do you need? How can I help you? Let's get it done. No, I can't sit on your board of director, but tell me what you're looking for. I'm going to find you that person. I'm going to find you that person that can do these things. And that to me is sort of the peer-to-peer fundraising, right? Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, I'm going to donate $1,000 to somebody today. Like, who is it going to be? No, humans want to be asked in order to consider giving the gift of their treasure, right? And I think people are the same way about volunteering their time, serving on boards, weeding their neighbor's garden, walking a friend's dog. You have to ask people, you have to make your needs known in order for people to hear the call and respond.
Well, you have a reputation as someone who connects the dots and people, and being that point person to say, well, if I can't do it, here's someone who may be able to help you. I think that's equally as important. And because you know so many people, people will trust who you send them to. So it's not like, you're just handing out names like, wait, actually, I do know someone who would be a better fit for you. And because, I've also been in the position where people ask a lot to help because we're known to do things. Right? We're doers. We're
We're doers.
definitely doers or fixers in some way. It's like, I can fix that hopefully. And if I can't, I'll tell you who can. So a lot of it does require listening. How do you practice listening as a leadership tool, especially when you're navigating complex or conflicting needs in the community, say when you're sitting in the middle of competing needs or limited resources?
Listening is a big part of the job. And by the job, I mean being human, being connected to people. I feel like I learn more in the quiet and the listening than I do in the talking in the loud these days. I think that's also part of getting older. I also think about it like I used to go to these events, chamber events and events in the community and fundraisers and things, and I used to like go right for the middle. I used to like go and like interject and be in the mix. Now I find myself on the edge. Just pausing and reading the room, seeing who's there, being more thoughtful and conscientious about who I want to connect with, who I want to engage with, rather than, going right for the middle of it all. I think that it's a gift to be at an organization that allows you the freedom to move about the cabin of your day in a way that is filled with trust and respect. And I have never lost sight of that fortune. So I try really hard to be intentional, and the trust, the integrity words, they're coming up a lot in this conversation, but I feel at the end of the day, that's what you have. You have your integrity, you have your trust, and the role that I am in for the bank, for my family, for my community, I feel a lot of responsibility to do that connecting for people, because so many of us aren't allowed to be free and externally facing. I feel a lot of privilege in the fact that I can stop and sit with a question, with a need, with an ask, and really think about, okay, who do I know? How can I get you what you need, and how can I help? But let me tell you, it's tiring.
Well, well, you know what? That's so funny because my next question is speaking about that. So, you give a lot, you're visible, you're active, and you're responsive. What have you learned about boundaries and sustainability in community work, and how do you stay rooted in your own well-being?
It's so funny. You'll appreciate this. So I see someone for craniosacral work once a month, and every time I go in to see her, she's just like, "You're so depleted. Your energy well is like boom." And when I think about myself in a 24-hour cycle, I think about that well, and I run it down and I try to fill it up. I run it down and I try to fill it up. Like every day, it's like a 24 hour. It's like all of it gone, all of it up, all of it gone, all of it up. And obviously you're never filling it up, right? Like you're never in 24 hours, there's no possible way that you can fill up your well. So maybe I'm like 25% the next day, maybe I'm like
I
50%
see
the
the
next day.
bars filling or going down.
It's crazy. But I am trying to be more intentional about not going to zero every day, and thinking about, like, does this meeting have to be in person? Can it be a walking meeting on the bike path, on the phone? Can it be a movement breathing conversation rather than like a eating and stationary conversation, trying to not do so much stuff over Zoom and more in person. Yeah, it's hard. It's really hard. And the first thing for me that always falls off is always the yoga class or the sound healing or the sauna or whatever it is, because those are always hard to fit in, especially with a family. I have two kids, 9 and 12. And so I try really hard to show them my power and my strength and how to show up in the world as a human that is part of the fascia, the interconnectedness of humanity, and also be a mom that is present for them and caring about their day-to-day lives
Yeah,
too.
there's always a balance, and listening to the community also requires listening to yourself because you are also part of the community. And it sounds like you take movement breaks. I think that's beautiful because you're listening to your body. Your body's like, I need to get some fresh air. I need to be grounded out in nature. I need to be outside, or I just need to sit quietly in this space. And I feel being a doer requires also just being a sitter. Right? There's there's because part of being a connector and a community person is periods of recharge and knowing when you need to say no to certain things because I'm like, hold on, I need to sort of refresh and revive myself first. And because you've raised some extraordinary support for nonprofits in this region, and a lot of it is very public. I know you just recently did the Grateful Bed, which if listeners haven't heard, what do you do during a Grateful Bed weekend? I love the name, by the way, first of all.
Thank you
And
so
you're not
much.
sleeping, so I
And
just know that too. Yeah.
I'm not sleeping. No. I love that you brought up that story because it's such a beautiful story that crosses so many years and also so many humans. So Monty Belmonte, who I learned so much of my community stewardship from, really taught me about standing in your power and using your light and your energy for the benefit of others. I definitely credit him as being one of my teachers in that. And the Grateful Bed tour, which just happened on Friday for Cancer Connection, was the brainchild of Monty back when he was at the river at the radio station when he wanted to raise funds for Cancer Connection for their free programs by doing a camp out on the courthouse lawn.
In cold temperatures.
And so no, not this person. This person would not do
That's
that.
no. I hear that
No,
as a
that's a
no.
hard no. No, that's a line draw for me for sure. So Monty went to NEPM. It's a nonprofit. You can't fundraise for other stuff. Like there's some, like it's like not really like, yeah, sure, go do that. We need money over here, but sure, go do that for other people over there. So he very lovingly said, Tara Brewster, do you want to take this over? I think it's great. In COVID, it was the bed-in because of COVID and we couldn't all be together outside. And so when he passed the torch to me, I ended up doing it in Greenfield our first year from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And then Hadley our second year, and then Northampton, Greenfield Savings Bank. And literally a bed was in the bank branch. So talk
about public facing.
I actually love that you brought this up because this is one of the reasons why I love GSB. Where else have you ever heard that a bank branch had a bed in it as a benefit for a nonprofit for 12 hours with one of their employees in the bed, raising money for the nonprofit from the community with the radio station, with people jumping into bed with her? I mean, it's like, GSB does the community challenge, the $15,000 challenge every year. And I love that this is how we show up, right? What I was just talking about, taking the backbone, taking the posture that we have, taking our position in the community, owning it and knowing that we can elevate it, knowing and owning the fact that we have customers that are coming in all the time. We have 9 branches with screens in them that we can be talking about this. We can put up a challenge and get another $15,000 match. It evolved into the Grateful Bed tour, which was taking it on the road. It was a little bit Grateful Dead. It was a little bit Keep on Truckin'. It was a little bit their 25th anniversary of Cancer Connection. And so we got to go all over Franklin and Hampshire County and back in a VW Buzz that was lent to us from Carla Casenzi. Thank you,
Love
Carla.
That.
Way to show up, way to use your power, your funds, your influence for good. And yeah, we just hung out all over the county, ate cupcakes, had some live music, raised some funds. Like,
it
yes,
just
please.
Keeps expanding and growing. And I love that. And it's visibility too. It's like, look how we're showing up in the community. Like you don't see Chase or Bank of America doing that, right? No, you're seeing Greenfield Savings Bank going out there and saying, look, here we are, and we're here to help. How straightforward is that? It's a beautiful thing. Right. Now, what kind of leadership is needed right now in the local economies, do you think? What kind of legacy do you hope to leave as well? Not just in paper or in programs, but in a way that people feel because of how you showed up.
I think the leadership that's needed is open leadership. I think it's partnership leadership. I'm seeing a lot more need for cross collaboration amongst leaders. So people that you would have never expected to come together and write grants together are doing that. People who are seemingly running parallel services I think now is a time for coming together and collaborating rather than trying to go to everyone's corner and figure out how they're going to do it all by themselves. I'm having a little COVID flashback energy happening lately in these times because it's very scary and unknown, and there's so much uncertainty and upset. And I feel like in COVID, we came together, right? We rallied together. We all had a common fear or enemy or whatever. And I feel like these times are similar with that too. And a lot of people are feeling backed up against the wall. So please think about who you can partner with, why you should partner with them, and reach out to them, write your grants together, get that money, strengthen your labor force and your client base. And I'm here for that for sure. And then in terms of, my legacy and what I want to leave, I just want to keep giving it away. I just, I mean, I do it, it's like the Chili Pepper song, give it away now. Like really, like I want to make more money so I can give more money away. I want to create more events so I can pass on the baton to the next person. I want someone else to be doing the Grateful Dead tour next year or the year after, or come up with their own idea. Or it's just about seeing a need, seeing an opportunity and doing it. People are really attracted to new, they're really attracted to tangible leadership. And so just showing up really is so much of being in community and being in your body and creating a testament for people to acknowledge and to create a roadmap for maybe how you want to do things. So
And it's also about being present and witness
yeah.
to other people outside of yourself and knowing how connected we all are. We could be the other person on the other end, receiving, wanting, and needing to receive the funding that you're giving out, and to understand that, it could be any of us. And so if we have the power or the position to be able to help, then we should. And I think that's such a valuable tool and gift. And, as for our listeners here, if you could offer one quiet encouragement to someone who's trying to make a difference in their small corner of the world, what would you say?
You have more power than you realize. So many of us discount and discredit our energy, our strength, our wisdom, and you have it. Just close your eyes and sit. Think about what makes you you. Think about what you've learned that nobody can take from you and give it away. Think about how you can help somebody else just by going for a walk or holding their hand or making a phone call or
Even smiling,
being.
just smiling at someone now, or
Yeah.
looking at them in the face. We forgot to connect that way.
I was just thinking about, the interactions that you have like in stores and daily ones that you don't even think about, but like looking someone in the eye and saying, thank you. I really appreciate this. Thank you for being here. Thank you for serving my coffee. Thank you for pumping my gas. That's a difference. So many people are shocked by that these days. Oh, wow. Like you see me,
Yeah, that's
I feel like so many people that I talk to don't think that they can make a difference, make a change, and they have this like internal naysayer that they allow to like lead and be in front of them rather than their strong self, their powerful self, their true self walking in front. So I would just encourage people to really walk tall, walk proud.
And one person can really make a difference. It doesn't have to be grand or huge. Just a small gesture, I think, ripples and goes a long way. I think that's beautiful. Now, how did folks connect with you, Tara? Can they follow you? Can they see all the amazing things that you're doing? Where can they find you?
They can find me on social media. I'm down to LinkedIn and Instagram.
What are your handles,
for different
Tara?
reasons. My Instagram is Tara T Brewster, and there's a dot in between the Tara and the Brewster. So Tara.T.Brewster. And then my LinkedIn is Tara.
And you're also on Greenfield Savings Bank, so people can look for you there.
I am. I'm on the website, and my email is tbrewster@greenfieldsavings.com. I'm happy to have people reach out to me and connect with me. It's a blessed life to be busy and to be disconnected, and I don't take it for granted. So
Well,
thank you for having me on and highlighting this work. I really appreciate it.
Well, Tara Brewster, thank you so much for sharing your time, perspective, and insight today. Through our conversation, you've just shown us how business, when rooted in intention and care, can be a true force for good. It's a reminder about how meaningful impact isn't built overnight, but it's through consistent action, deep relationships, and the belief that connection is our most valuable currency. I have no doubt that listeners will walk away inspired and energized by your words today.
Thank you, Donnabelle.
Thanks for being here. I hope something from today's conversation stayed with you or gave you a new way to look at things. That awareness, that pause, that's where things start to shift. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, or share it with someone who might need it. You can learn more about my work and what's coming up at sonorouslight.com, and you can follow me on Instagram at @tohumIsHuman. Until next time, keep humming.